Silence is always here, right? No matter how much sound there is, without silence, there couldn't be any sound, could there? Silence is always here. Stillness is always here. The awareness that you and I are is still and silent and available at all times. So in the practice of meditation, in the beginning, it's like learning to play the piano, right? In the beginning of learning to play the piano, the teacher will tell you, here are the keys, the keys that you have to start with your fingers, and you're gonna do drills now, just moving your fingers on these keys. Just keep doing the drills, right? Now, most people don't succeed in learning to play the piano because they don't like having to do those drills. Just keep doing those drills. I didn't want to do that. I want to play the piano. When am I going to play the piano? I want to play music. Okay? It's the exact same thing with meditation. When you begin to practice meditation, you're not meditating. When you begin to play the piano, you're not playing the piano. You're just practicing the technique. And as you practice the technique, you will run into things like, oh, there's a sound in the next room, it's a distraction, I can't meditate. I can't do this. Or my mind is racing, I can't meditate. Right? These are the beginning things that happen when people go to practice meditation, right? And if you can't get through the initial phase, right, to get to the place where the mind is calm enough and the body is quiet enough that you can begin to actually experience the state of meditation, right? Until you get to that, you have to tolerate the initial stage of the practice. And you have to use your commitment and use your self-discipline to do it every single day without fail. It's just like working out in the gym. You know, if you go to the gym, if you don't work out every single day, you don't get the benefit. And if you don't continue to work out over time, you don't get the benefit. So this is an education. Meditation will give you an education for living. It will allow you to understand that living is an art form. It's not something everybody has the ability to do automatically. You have to learn to live correctly. You have to learn to live awake. You have to learn to fulfill on your potential as an awareness and to understand that what you want more than anything is always available to you, but it's not free lunch. The truth is free, but it's not free lunch. The truth is available, but only if you make yourself available to it. That's the way this works. If you wake up and you realize the possibility of who you are, your life will be a spontaneously working reality. Spontaneously working reality. You know, you'll be available to respond to whatever the circumstances are that life presents to you. That's a different way of living, because for the most part, the way we live our life is in reaction, not in response. We react. What do I mean by that? Something happens to us in the world, right? It stimulates brain activity, and then the brain activity that gets stimulated plays the voice in your head, gets your voice in your head to say certain things, right? And it stimulates a reaction. A reaction means that you're replaying something from the past. React. You're replaying something from the past. So most of us are living from the past. We're reacting from the past all the time. And our mind and our conditioning is playing the voice in our head, right? Telling us what to do, repeating patterns of behavior, right? That's one of the reasons that as a psychologist, I can work with people, because as I spend a certain amount of time with them, I begin to see their patterns. They're just repetitive patterns. You know, if you start to pay attention to the voice in your head and your own behavior, your life is a repetitive pattern of things. You get up in the morning, you go through certain procedures, certain repetitious things every day, over and over again. It's Groundhog Day. Most of our lives are Groundhog Day. However, there is a progressive reality that occurs if you continue to meditate and you continue to come to the class, right? The things that I say and the things that the other teachers say and the things that you could read in books and everything, they start to be the dots that get connected. The picture starts to fill in. You know, it's like that saying that they talk about when people are discovering an elephant. You're familiar with that thing where people are talking about what is an elephant, but they're blind, and so one person's holding the leg and they say, oh, it's like this. Another person's holding the trunk, oh, it's like this, right? So these teachings are like that. You hear different things. I'll talk about brain science. I'll talk about mysticism, I'll talk about dreams, I'll talk about relationships. You hear different things in terms of how all this fits together, and if you stay with it long enough, you start to see the picture. You know, it's like those 3D pictures that used to be around a lot, right? If you stay with it long enough and you relax and look at it, you start to see another image in the picture. It's like sending your brain through a car wash. You know, it's like you can get to a point with meditation. It's like rebooting the computer, right? It's like updating the software, you know, like that with your brain. If you put the time in meditation, and you start to cultivate the state of being that becomes available to you, then you can play jazz, you can be creative in your life, you can have relationships that work. You know, one of the things that happened for me with this is because one of the areas in my life that was always problematic was in my relationships. You know, I was raised by a family that was very troubled and very much in conflict. So I really didn't know how to relate to other people effectively, right? And so when I got married, I really was unable to create a working relationship in the marriage. And I started to realize that unless I changed dramatically, that there wouldn't be anybody that I could ever be with and be happy and satisfied, because my mind would just keep getting in the way, you know, and keeping me in conflict. Right? So it's kind of one of those things where you start to realize that if you're going to be able to be married and be happy with the person you're with, right, then you're going to have to transform yourself in order to be able to do that. Otherwise, you'll be part of the statistic. You know, more than half the people who get married get divorced, and there's another 45 to 48% who stay married miserable. So relationships, generally speaking, for human beings don't work. That's the fact. Look at the nightly news. Relationships, generally speaking, for people don't work. And that's because people are in a condition of ignorance and confusion, and in that condition, you're unrelatable. You're unrelatable.